Hi, thanks for coming on. Andy speaking. Friday, 3rd of February, just coming up 7 o'clock. Looking ahead to the weekend games in Scotland, England and the National League. Poor coupon in England, I have to say. Scotland and the National League miles better this week. And we'll start with the National League for a change. Right, National League, I'll give you the bets I'm having. There's one here, couple in the National League North and South. National League then, Oldham, Halifax, 2 points I'm having on Oldham. 50, 25, 25. I think Oldham should be evens. They're 13 to 10. They're 20th in the table. Oldham, ignore that. They're better than that. Home form against teams in the bottom half of the table, where Halifax are. Halifax is 17th. Oldham's record is played 6, won 5, drawn 1. And they've scored at least 2 goals in every one of those games. Fantastic record. As I say, at home to teams in the bottom, won 5, drawn 1, scored a minimum of 2 goals in all of those games. As I say, Halifax, who are 17th, they've won twice on the road all season, once at Solihull and the other time at second from bottom, Scunthorpe. I think Oldham will win. There's value in it, and it's a 2-point bet. Right, National League North, 2 bets here. Alfreton to beat Boston, 2 points to win. Evens is the price. I make Alfreton 8 to 11. I think they ought to be winning this game. They're in 11th. Boston, 4th from bottom. Teams below them, they've won 4, drawn 3, lost none. They've only shipped 3 goals in those games as well, Alfreton. But more importantly, teams in that sort of bottom cluster of the sort of bottom 6, if you like, where Boston are. Alfreton have played 3, won 3 and not conceded a goal. They should be odds on for this on my book, absolutely no question. Boston have won 2 matches on the road against bottom club Telford and third from bottom Farsley. They've drawn 3 and lost the rest. I think they've drawn 3 and lost 8. Can't see any other result here than an Alfreton win. Kidderminster, Scarborough, 38, 24, 38. Tough game to split, but the prices are completely wrong. They certainly are on my book anyway. How can Kidderminster warrant being 4 to 5 when they've won 4 games at home all season? And 3 of those 4 home wins have come against teams in the bottom half. Scarborough are 5th in the table. Kidderminster have played the top 6. Of the top 6 sides Kidderminster have played home and away, they've drawn 1, lost 5. They were turned over 4-2 at Scarborough earlier in the season. I just do not understand the prices for the life of me. Scarborough have won at Fylde, Darlington, Gloucester, all teams in the top half of the table. I'm not saying Scarborough are going to win. I think it's a real tight game to assess. But I just think that Kidderminster odds on is absolutely ridiculous. And Scarborough at 7 to 2. I backed them at 4 to 1 earlier. But even at 7 to 2, there's almost 2 points in them. It's a ridiculous price. Going on then, National League South, I think this was the strongest bet of the weekend in the National League. Eastbourne to beat Taunton, 2 points. Evens is the call. I think they should be 8 to 11. They're 8th in the table. Taunton are 18th. Now, Eastbourne at home to teams sort of 15th or below have won 6, lost 1. They did lose at home to Hampton, but they've won the rest. And in all those games that I've just spoken about, where they've averaged almost 3 goals a game. Taunton's away form is absolutely atrocious. They've won twice on the road against 23rd place Weymouth and bottom placed Hungerford. Outside of those 2 games, they've drawn 3 and lost 6. They beat Havant the other night at home, but they're a different animal at home, and Havant were really, really poor, I'm told. It wasn't so much the fact that Taunton were great. Havant were diabolical. I just think Havant have given up on the title and are settling for a playoff place. That's what I think. And I spoke to some Eastbourne fans this week, and they are desperate to get into a playoff place. So I think they'll win. I think that they should be even money. Sorry, they should be 8 to 11. They're even money. It's worth a 2-point investment. Tonbridge, Worthing, 20, 25, 55. I'm having a point on Worthing. Worthing have been a great side on the road this season. if you look at Worthing's away form, they've lost only once at Braintree 2-1. They've won at Dartford, Havant, St Albans, Eastbourne. All teams in the top 8. Tonbridge are 10th. I just don't see any result here other than a Worthing win. I think they should be odds on for this. They're not. They're 23-20. Tonbridge, they've won 5. They've beaten Eastbourne and Chelmsford here, are in the top part of the table. Their other wins have been against teams below them. They did get a stuffing 5-0 here off Weymouth, and they lost 4-1 at home to Hampton, who are in the bottom third. So I think Worthing should be odds on. They're not. They're odds against. I think it's a good bet. And as I say, there's 3 2-point win bets amongst this. You got Oldham 2 points at 13-10, Alfreton 2 points at evens, Eastbourne 2 points at evens, and Worthing and Scarborough. I can't believe the Scarborough price. I think it's a really decent coupon in the National League. And I am tempted to cover every game in the National League like I do on League 1 and League 2. I used to do that. But what I do is I would give you the bets from the National Leagues and cover every game individually. But we'll see. It's all about time. But as I say, fingers crossed, it looks a really decent coupon. Right, let's go on to Scotland, Scottish Premier League. You need your head seen to if you're going to play in this top match, Aberdeen, Motherwell. I cannot believe the downfall of both of these clubs. Obviously, Jim Goodwin got the sack from Aberdeen. I said to you last week that game against Hibs was whoever loses gets a chop. Aberdeen lost. He was out the door, I think 19 minutes or something after the game had finished. Motherwell are in big, big trouble. There's a bit of value in Motherwell. Aberdeen are rated to win. Stay away from it, honestly, guys. It's just not a game to get involved with. Both of these clubs are in awful, awful form. It's 43, 27, 30. Aberdeen, no value. There's a bit in Motherwell. I wouldn't touch it. Hearts Dundee United, 55, 23, 22. Hearts odds on, I totally agree with. I just think they're a bit short. There's 4-1 about Dundee United. There's half a point in there. 22%. Not really for me. I'd expect Hearts to win. Livingston Kilmarnock, 50, 25, 25. I think Livy deserve to be a little bit shorter than the 5-4 they are. They've only lost 3 times here all season. One was against Celtic, one was against Rangers, the other one was an odd one against Ross County. They've beaten Aberdeen here, Kilmarnock, Hearts, Hibernian. I think they're, the right price is even money. Sorry about that. The right price is even money, not the 5-4. Kilmarnock have yet to win on the road. I can't really see them, winning this. Rangers Ross, 75, 17, 8. Not really anything to talk about. 8's on is just ludicrous. There's massive value in Ross, but you're just not going to take it. The figure is far too low. I think it is anyway. St Mirren, Hibernian, 42, 25, 33. I would love to know who has made Hibs favourite for this game. You're talking about St Mirren's side that's played 12 games at home this season. They've won 7 of them, drawn 4 and lost only 1. We're in February. St Mirren have lost 1 game at home all season, and I'll tell you when that was. That was on the opening day of the season, way back back in the summer. They've turned over Celtic here, Hibernian. They've beaten them already. St Mirren, they're decent at home. And as I say, they've held Rangers here. They've held Hearts here. They've beaten Celtic. They've not lost here since the opening day of the season. Yet we find Hibernian favourites. Hibernian have played 12 games on the road. They've won 3, drawn 1, lost 8. They've won at St Johnstone on the opening day of the season, Ross County and Motherwell. They're their only wins on the road. Absolutely ridiculous that they're favourites for this game. St Mirren should be 11-8. Hibs should be 2-1. Bookmakers have got this wrong. St Johnstone Celtic 9-18-73. Again, nothing really worthwhile. Celtic will win 2-9. Ridiculous price. Best bet in the Scottish Premiership, no brainer. St Mirren has to be, doesn't it? 42%. Hibs, they won at Motherwell the other week, but Motherwell were, as I say, Motherwell have been massively out of form. Prior to that, Hibs had lost 6 or 7 on the road. Just can't understand it. Really don't. Hibernian and Aberdeen are the worst two teams for betting purposes most of the time in the Scottish Premier League. Let's move on. Scottish Championship, that's tonight, Queen's Park Air, 42-24-34. There's a smidge in Air. The rating 34. I think Queen's are short enough at 11-10. I have to say, I wouldn't have had them that short, and there is a little bit in Air. I think there's more than a little bit in Air, actually. I think I've got that wrong. No, there is only 0.3. I think Queens are the most likeliest winners, yes. But they shouldn't be 11-10. It's up to you. Arbroath Wraith, 35-25-40. I wouldn't trust either of these two sides. I think 13-8 is far too short for Arbroath. Wraith, there's 0.12 in them at 40%. It's how you see it. Hamilton Dundee, 25-25-50. Dundee most likeliest winners, and I think they'll probably will win this game. 4-5, not for me. I don't think they warrant being odds on. That's the only thing I'll say. They won 5 from 11 on the road at Dundee. Hamilton have won the last 2. They won away at Partick last week, 1-0. I thought that was a really, really good result. Had Hamilton not won last week, this would have probably been around 20%, and this would have been 55, so that would have been probably around the right price. It's 0.33 in Hamilton. It's not for me, but I do think Dundee don't deserve to be odds on. Inverness Morton, 45-25-30. I put this on Twitter the other day. I couldn't believe the price. I mean, this was a lot bigger the other day. This was 13-8, and a lot of bookmakers had Morton favourites. I just can't see that for the life of me. 45% Inverness. It's a decent value bet, I have to say. But Morton have, they've fallen off a cliff lately. They've won once on the road since October, Morton, and that was against Cove, who are probably in the worst form of any team in this division. And Inverness have turned a corner. They've started winning. I think they'll win tomorrow, and I think it's a value bet. Partick Cove, 58-25-17. Yes, I think Partick warrant being odds on. I don't think 4-7. I wouldn't take 4-7 for about them. Not on the back of being turned over at home to Hamilton last week. Yes, I think they'll probably win the game. 4-7 is just a ridiculous price. I'd want 4-5 minimum to get involved in Partick, and we're not going to get that. So it's a no bet as far as I'm concerned. Best bet in the division, I think Inverness by a country mile. Right, Scottish League One, awful coupon. Nothing here really. Edinburgh are the only team with the remotest bit of value in. We'll go through it anyway. Airdrie Clyde, 66-24-10. Airdrie should win. 4-11's too short. They'll win, simple as that. Same with Alloa. Clyde and Peterhead are two awful sides. One of them's going to finish bottom, the other's going to be in the playoffs with League Two. It's as simple as that. Alloa 65-25-10. Alloa will win. They're too short at 2-5. Look, Airdrie and Alloa, I think they're both good things, but you can't go taking 4-11 about 2s on shots, and you can't go taking 2-5 about 8-15 shots. You're not going to win in the long term. Yes, you might get lucky tomorrow and both of these teams will hose up. I think they probably will, but you cannot win in the long run. It's as simple as that. It looks good, doesn't it? It's a high figure. Oh yes, I think they'll win, but you just can't go taking that figure. For me to back Airdrie at 4-11, they would need to be 4s on. Alloa 2-5. I'd want to see, I don't know, 2s on again. I'd want to get involved in that. We're not going to get it. It's simple as that. Dunfermline Montrose 58-24-18. I think Dunfermline should win. They're not. I'm not going to say they're the most reliable because they're going so well, but they do draw a few here. Montrose, I think, are out of form. I think Dunfermline will win, but I think if you need a banker in this division, you need to be looking at Airdrie or Alloa. I'd sooner back one of them than over Dunfermline, even though Dunfermline is a better price. I just think that Airdrie to beat Clyde is probably a nailed-on job. Kelsey Falkirk, 24, 52. I agree with the bookmakers. Falkirk should be odds on. They weren't. I was going to put them up the other day. There was some 11 to 10 about, and I thought that was pretty good when I'd done this. But sadly, they've gone odds on, so there's no value there. They're challenging for the title, Falkirk. Let's make no bones about that. Flaky Falkirk, as I like to call them, let you down more often than not. But I do think it is a sustained challenge this season. They should win tomorrow. Queen of the South, Edinburgh, 45, 24, 31. I don't like Queen of the South. You've known that for years. When I used to write in the column in the paper, I said about Queen of the South. They're just such an unreliable side. They're rated to win tomorrow. They'll probably win, but the value is certainly with Edinburgh. There's 0.4 in Edinburgh at 31%, and that is the only bet I came close to having in this division, because, as I say, there's just nothing in any of the others. But if you want to put it down and pick it up job, Airdrie would be your bet. It's not for me. Scottish League 2, Bonnyrigg, Annan, 25, 25, 50. I think Annan should be evens. I don't rate Bonnyrigg at all. They're the worst team in this division. I say this every week and will continue to say it. Annan, 11 to 10. There's 0.1 in there at evens. It's value. It's a question of how you see it. I think Annan should win. East 5 Stirling, 20, 25, 55. 4 to 5, I make Stirling. They're 17 to 20. There's a tiny bit in it. East 5 have been terrible at home. They've only won 2 games all season. They're not too bad on the road, but they really do need to start winning at Bayview. They're not in any danger, I don't think. Elgin Albion, 48, 24, 28. Nothing here for us. Both too short for a bet. Wouldn't rule Albion out. Elgin are rated to win. Tough game. Forfar Stranraer, 56, 24, 20. Forfar were much bigger than this earlier on in the week. I make them 4 to 5. They were as big as 23 to 20. They've been hammered into 5 to 6. I like Ray McKinnon. He's doing a great job. Stranraer are terrible on the road. Forfar should win. Stenhousemuir Dumbarton, 32, 25, 43. I don't trust Stenny. 13 to 8 I think is far too short. There's 0.2 in Dumbarton at 43%. It's how you see it. Best bet in this division. Well, I mean, Forfar was the best bet in the division, but the price has gone. I don't know. It's how you see it, really, guys. Dumbarton probably now. It's got the most value in, hasn't it? But it's got a lower rating than the other 3 teams, which are rated highly. My favourite division, as you know. Right, let's get on to England. Right, I'm having a bet in the Premiership and I'm having a bet in the Championship. They're both there for you to see. I do give you the bets for my bets I'm having in the Premiership and the Championship every week. I don't tell you what I'm doing in League 1 and League 2. That's for members only, but I don't mind putting these up because I don't very often play. Premiership, I hate Premiership football, guys. You know I do. I've got no interest, but I do think there's a bit of value in Aston Villa. I think they should warrant being odds on for this tomorrow. 55, 24, 21. I think he's done a fantastic job since he's been there, Unai Emery. I rated him when, I've always rated him. He came to Arsenal, and I think that had he been allowed to do to Arsenal what Arteta's been allowed to do, I think Arsenal wouldn't be in a too different place to where they are now. Because the sort of players that he didn't like, Arteta didn't like, and he was allowed to get rid of them, Emery wasn't. But I think Emery's doing a fantastic job with Villa. I did mention over Christmas about backing them to be in the top 10. I think they will be top 10 this season. Recently they've won at Brighton, they've won at Tottenham, they've beaten Manchester United. That's 3 sides that are in the top 6. They're at home to Leicester, who are 14th. Leicester did hit a bit of form, won a few games, and it looked good on the surface. But when you look at it, Forest, Leeds, West Ham, Wolves, Everton, they're all teams in the bottom third of the table, aren't they? against teams 13th or above on the road. Leicester have lost all of them, and they've shipped a minimum of 2 goals. I think Villa will win. They should be odds on. They're evens, and as I say, I've had a bet on it. I think it's a good bet. Right, Championship, Hull Cardiff 50 25-25. I think Hull should be evens. They're 23-20. I mean, I couldn't imagine back in Hull City really, but going through the figures, I made them evens and was quite surprised to see the price. They've only lost once in ages. They're going the right way. They've hauled themselves up the table to 15th. Cardiff are 3rd from bottom and are going completely the wrong way. I don't know whether Mick McCarthy can come in and save them. Are there 3 worse teams in the division than Cardiff City? At the moment there is Huddersfield, Blackpool and Wigan. I'd be quite worried if I was a Cardiff fan, I have to say. Particularly they've got to go to Burnley, Sheffield United, Watford, Norwich, all teams in and around the top. I think Cardiff are going to struggle. As I say, and I'm having a point on Hull tomorrow. Let's go on to League One. And as I said at the start of the video, I think League One and League Two is absolutely diabolical in terms of value, and you will see what I mean. I mean, just on this front page, we got Bolton at 2s on, Ipswich at 4-9, Derby at 3s on. It's just the way it is. Accrington Lincoln 44-25-31. Do you know what? I was tempted with Accrington. When I went through this and thought 5-4, I thought we might get something bigger than that because they're 4th from bottom. But we're not, sadly. But Accrington's record at home is really good. They've lost 4 times here, but they've lost to Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich, Derby and Bolton, who are 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th in the table. Outside of that, they've won 3, drawn 5. They're 21st. Lincoln are 16th. Now, Lincoln on the road, they've been pretty good on the road. They've won at Ipswich, Barnsley, Bristol Rovers, Oxford. So they're no mugs, and there was a smidge of value in that. It's not a game to get involved in, but I would have been quite happy to bet Accrington, providing they were a bigger price. Bolton Cheltenham 66-24-10. I think Bolton will win this. I really do. They've lost a couple of times, Sheffield Wednesday and Oxford. No great shame there, but I think this is a much easier assignment. Cheltenham have won at Shrewsbury and Exeter, who are in the top 10. But it's not a game to get involved in, is it, guys? Really, I just, there's nothing there. Bristol Rovers MK Dons 43-25-32. MK Dons was successful for us the other week. I don't see it happening tomorrow. Rovers are 12th. They're a funny side. At home to teams below them, they've won 4, drawn 2, lost 3. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it? MK Dons, they're 20th, but their record away to teams in the 11th or below, they've won 5, drawn 1, lost 1. They've only 1 defeat, and there is a bit of value there, 0.3. It's up to you. If it was bigger, I would certainly be interested, but I'm 0.3 at 32% probably isn't quite enough, is it? Cambridge Ipswich 12-23-65. Can only see one winner here. I don't like ever backing Ipswich Town because they go off underpriced every single week. Cambridge is 2nd bottom. I think they're in big trouble because they've got to play Ipswich home. They've got to go to Plymouth, Bolton, Barnsley, Exeter. Teams in the top part of the table. I think Cambridge are in trouble. I think they've got some home games against Fleetwood, Cheltenham, Morecambe, Forest Green. They're going to have to win those if they are to stay up. I can't see anything other than Ipswich win tomorrow. The same goes for this game. Derby Morecambe 66-24-10. 3's on's a ridiculous price. It really, really is. I mean, Morecambe have won 1 game on the road at Forest Green, who are bottom. They've drawn against Wycombe and Bristol Rovers, who are in the top half of the table. They've been turned over by Peterborough, Bolton, teams towards the top. Derby are fourth. Derby will win. The price is just ridiculous, isn't it? But Exeter Charlton 42-25-33, 0.02. Absolutely, really frustrating. And this is what I mean when I say it's a diabolical coupon, because this is what you found all week. They've won 5 at home, Exeter. I mean, they're capable. They've beaten Peterborough, Wickham here, teams above them, yet they've lost to Burton and Cheltenham, teams in the bottom third. So you never know what you're going to get. Charlton are 15th. They've won at Shrewsbury, Portsmouth. It'll probably be a draw, to be honest. It's not for me. Fleetwood, Burton 44-27-29. I like Fleetwood, and I like Scott Brown. I've got a lot of time for him. They just don't win enough, do they? I mean, they've beaten Plymouth here at the top. But they've only won 2 games here all season. Burton are 22nd, and I thought Fleetwood should win this game, but there's nothing in it. Forest Green, Peterborough, and that's evens. 25-25-50. Peterborough favourites. Don't think they warrant being odds on. Think they'll probably win. Forest Green are bottom, aren't they? I think they're going to drop this season, Forest Green. Peterborough do need to win. Start winning. They're 7th. They're 5 points off 6th place Barnsley. They need to start winning. And they have been winning, but they need to get up the table really if they're going to get in these playoffs. Oxford Shrewsbury 44-24-32. 2 teams I don't really trust. Oxford have got an appalling record to teams above them. Well, not appalling. They've won 2, lost 4. They've beaten Ipswich here, but then they lose to MK Dons. Lincoln. It's real unpredictable side. Oxford are. Shrewsbury are 9th. Away to teams below them. They've won 4, drawn 3, lost 3. So again, a bit of a mixed bag. Nothing of interest as far as we're concerned. There's half a point in Shrewsbury. If I was going to bet, I would bet Shrewsbury. The figures are with Oxford. Port Vale Wickham 40-24-36. They've only beaten one side above them at home all season, Port Vale. That was Shrewsbury. Apart from that, they've drawn 1 and lost 5. I don't trust Wickham. That is what my problem there with them is, and I'll tell you for why. They've won at 6th place Barnsley, 7th place Peterborough, but they've been turned over at 18th place Cheltenham, drawn at 16th place Lincoln, 17th place Fleetwood. It's a tough game to assess, and the whole coupon is I just think the whole coupon's awful in League One. Portsmouth Barnsley, couldn't split these, 38-24-38. The value lies with Barnsley. They got a really good record away to teams below them. They've won 5, drawn 1, lost 2. But again, they've lost to Charlton and Morecambe. But they've won at Peterborough. They've won at Sheffield Wednesday. Portsmouth have lost twice at home to Charlton and MK Dons, but were good enough to beat Peterborough here. So, and they have looked better under the new manager. Right, at the last game, 2nd place first, Sheffield Wednesday at home to Plymouth. I think Wednesday are good things. I think they'll win. I think they'll win the title. They're too short for a bet. I was hoping, when I went through this and done the figures, I was really hoping we were going to get a price, because I thought that with Plymouth being top, bookmakers might just, put Plymouth in at 7-2, 3-1, something like that. But they haven't. They've seen it the same way as I have, and they make Plymouth 9-2 shots. Plymouth did win at Derby and Wickham. That's their only 2 wins against teams outside the top, in the top 18. They've won 2 games on the road in the top 18. The others have been against teams towards the bottom. They've lost at Charlton. They've lost at Fleetwood. I think they're on borrowed time at the top of League One. Plymouth. I think Sheffield Wednesday will win the title now. It's just a question of whether Plymouth have got enough to stay ahead of Ipswich. Don't forget, there's plenty of games left. It can change. I mean, Derby are absolutely on fire. They're 11 points behind Plymouth with a game in hand. It's tough, isn't it? And the other thing with Plymouth, they've got to go to Barnsley, Peterborough, Shrewsbury, Exeter, all teams in the top 10. But they have got teams towards the bottom at home. 6 of their remaining home games are against teams 15th or below. That's going to be crucial to Plymouth. But I do think Wednesday will win the title. I think they're the best side in the division. I think they'll win tomorrow. Right, League 2. Again, I don't think it's a great coupon. I think there's a bit more value about in League 2 than there is in League 1. But I don't think it's great. Newport Swindon, 38-24-38. Tough to split. There's bits and pieces in each of them. For betting purposes, no interest for us. Newport, they've won at Orient. They've drawn at Northampton. The teams in the top 4. But they've lost here to bottom place Rochdale. It's a completely unpredictable side. Swindon are now. I had time for Swindon. We made some good profits back in Swindon at certain times this season. I'm not so keen on them now, I have to say. On the road, they've lost at Colchester, Crawley and Harrogate, all teams in the bottom third. Yet they've won at Northampton, Mansfield and Barrow, all teams in the top 10. Work that one out. Bradford Mansfield 40-24-36. 2 teams I don't trust. Not anymore. Tough game to assess. Bradford are 8th, Mansfield are 7th. I don't see either of these two going up. They may get in the playoffs, but I don't see them winning the playoffs. Sadly, don't think either of them are good enough. There's a bit in Bradford, 0.12. Mansfield on the road, their best wins at 9th place Barrow. Other than that, their other win on the road was at 15th place Doncaster, all teams below. There's a smidge in Bradford. Bradford are favourites. I think Bradford may just win. Carlisle Harrogate 60-23-17. Carlisle won for us in the week. They were a 2-point win bet in the week, and they stuffed Barrow. They should be 4-6 tomorrow. They're 8-13. They're roughly about the right price. They've lost one game here all season. That was against Orient. And the problem with Carlisle is they've drawn so many games, but they're now starting to win. Excuse me. Yes, they're 4 points behind Stevenage. Stevenage got 2 games in hand, but I think the gap for Carlisle might be Orient, and we'll come to that in a minute. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, I think Carlisle will win tomorrow. Harrogate are 4th from bottom. Their form on the road is atrocious. They've won twice on the road against Gillingham and Rochdale, the bottom 2 teams. Aside from that, they've drawn 2 and lost 9. So I think it's 8. Terrible road form. Carlisle will win. They're just too short for a bet, only just. Colchester Barrow 48-24-28. We'll deal with Barrow first because I was just talking about them. They're dropping like a stone at the moment. I'm not going to say that the wheels are off. It's an overstretched squad, and I think that time's caught up with them. I really do. I mean, tomorrow they're at Colchester, who are 18th, but I think if we look at Colchester's form at home, I think we can really make a case for Colchester. They've won 4 here. They've drawn 5, lost 5. But the wins have been against Swindon and Bradford, 6th and 8th. They've beaten 15th place Doncaster. They've drawn here against Stevenage, Carlisle and Salford, teams in the top 5. It's decent home form. I think they should be favourites for this at 11-10. I think they warrant being shorter than 8-5 Colchester. And it isn't just... And you look at that and think, how can he say Colchester's 11-10? It isn't just because of my workings out on Colchester. It's Barrow's poor recent performances that contribute to that rating on Colchester. And as I say, I think it's a small squad at Barrow. It's overstretched. They got a 5-1 tanking at Carlisle the other night. A trip down to Essex for this. I don't see Barrow getting anything here. I might be wrong, but we shall see. Right, next up, Crewe Grimsby, 42-25-33. I think Crewe are massively overpriced for this. They're 16th, Grimsby are 17th. I think Crewe should be 11-8. Yet bookmakers think Crewe should be 12-5 and Grimsby should be 13-10. I don't know how they arrive at that figure. Crewe have won 5 games at home. They've drawn 5 games. They've lost 4. 3 of the losses: 2nd place Stevenage, 3rd place Carlisle, 7th place Mansfield, 19th place Newport. Newport, by the way, are capable on their day, as we know. They've drawn here with Northampton, Stockport, Wimbledon. They've beaten Sutton, Tranmere, Colchester, Crawley, Harrogate. I'm not going to say that that's great home form, not at all, but I think that's decent enough home form when you're hosting Grimsby. Now, Grimsby started off okay on the road, but it's completely tailed off recently. They've lost at Harrogate, they've lost at Hartlepool, and anybody that loses at Hartlepool is certainly capable of losing at Crewe. There's a point in Crewe, over a point in Crewe. 12-5 is a big price. I'm not saying they're going to win. I never say, this team will definitely win. It's just not how I do it. It's all about the price, but I think that Crewe should be 11-8, not 12-5. So don't go and think, I'm going to smash into Crewe. I'm not going to bother with Colchester. I'm only going to back Crewe or whatever, because. But there is a point in Crewe. I think it's a really big price. Doncaster Hartlepool 55, 24, 21. I can only see one result here. Doncaster are 15th. They've won every game to teams below them. It's only 3 of them, but they've won them all, and they've scored 9 goals in those 3. Simple as that. They should be 17th, should be 4-5. Hartlepool in big trouble. Won a couple on the road at Crawley and Rochdale. Aside from that, there's been a couple of draws at Colchester and Mansfield. They've lost the rest. As sad as it is to say, I can't see us getting anything tomorrow at Doncaster. I think Doncaster will win. Gillingham Crawley 50, 25, 25. Gillingham are 23rd in the table, yet bookmakers have got them in odds on. I really, really don't get that. They've won 3 games here all season. Yes, their best winning was against Sutton. The other 2 wins were against Hartlepool and Rochdale. I don't rate Crawley. How you make a side odds on for that, I just don't see it. Crawley have yet to win on the road this season, but Crawley's games against teams 18th or below, and that's where Gillingham feature. Crawley haven't lost a game. They've not won, but they've drawn all 4 of those games. If I had to play in this game, I would play Crawley. I'm not saying they're going to win. It's just the fact that Gillingham don't deserve to be odds on, and they don't. Right, Leyton Orient against Wimbledon. Let's talk about this. We'll do the ratings first. 52, 26, 22. Yes, Orient deserve to be a shade of odds on, only a shade. There's half a point in Wimbledon, but let's just talk about Orient for a second. Now, Orient, they're top of League 2. Do you know that they've scored 1 goal in their last 7 games? 1 goal since early December, and that was at home to Doncaster. They've drawn 0-0 with Stevenage at home, 0-0 with Orient, 0-0 with Barrow. They've been turned over at Northampton, Stevenage, Tranmere, all to 0. Their only goal was against Doncaster in a 1-0 victory. They're top. The wheels have come off. They've stopped scoring. I'm not saying it's going to continue in that way, but it is a concern. The next 2 games are away at Crewe and Walsall as well. And I wouldn't make them good things for that. They'll probably go and win. But as I say, they've scored 1 goal since early December, and they've not won on the road since November the 19th. They've lost their last 3 on the road, Orient. And as I say, they've won once here since middle of December and only scored 1 goal. There's half a point in Wimbledon. I'm not saying Wimbledon are going to win. They did turn Orient over 2-0 earlier in the season. That was at Wimbledon, but just interesting. I think Orient are in a spot of bother, and that's why I was, when we look at the top of the table, I was speaking about Carlisle, possibly Northampton come into that equation as well, and it just makes you wonder. There's plenty of football left to be played. if Orient, are going to continue in that trajectory, they could well find themselves outside those top 2 berths. I mean, at the moment, Stevenage look the side. They're second, 2 points off top with 2 games in hand over Orient and Carlisle. Northampton have a game in hand over Carlisle and Orient. I don't think Orient are good things for the title at all. I still think we're in with more than half a chance with our Northampton bet. I don't think our Mansfield bet's going to cop at all. But if you're going to go in and back in Orient for the title, just bear in mind what I've just said. 1 goal in 7 games isn't good enough for a team that's top of the league. Northampton Walsall 50-24-26 is 0.10 in Northampton, and if they do want to challenge for that title that we've just mentioned about, they need to be winning tomorrow. Funny side at home, they've beaten Orient here, they've beaten Carlisle, Barrow, Stockport, they've been turned over by Doncaster, Swindon and Salford, and they were unable to beat Sutton and Tranmere and Newport here. So 11-10 I think is, I see them at even money, so there's a bit in them. Walsall 3 wins on the road all season at Swindon, Doncaster and Newport. To teams in the top 9, they've won 1, drawn 1 and lost 5. I think Northampton should win tomorrow. There's 0.1 in it. It's a bit of value. It's a decent enough rating. It's how you see it. Salford Rochdale 52-25-23. I think Salford did ought to be winning this. I say did ought to. They're capable of. Look, they've beaten Stevenage, Northampton, Mansfield here, teams in the top 7, but they've lost here to Bradford, Tranmere, Stockport, been unable to beat Wimbledon, Grimsby, Crawley, teams towards the bottom. So they're not a team that you sort of want to be smashing into at odds on. Rochdale have won more on the road than they have at home. They won at Bradford, Colchester and Newport. They've drawn at Carlisle and Barrow. That's decent performances. I think the bookmakers have priced up these absolutely bang on. Pretty much the story of the weekend, isn't it, really? Stockport Tranmere 23-22. Stockport 4-5. That's where I see Stockport. 3 defeats here all season. Grimsby, Barrow and Orient. They're 10th. They really do need to get a move on if they're going to finish in the playoffs. I think they're 3 or 4 points outside at the moment. 4-5 tomorrow, I think is about right. Tranmere are 13th. Tranmere's best away win was at Salford, but they have won at Barrow, drawn at Northampton and Swindon. I think they've got half a chance here tomorrow. There's half a point in them. It's how you see it. Finally, Sutton Stevenage 33-24-43. They're okay at home, Sutton. 3 defeats here against Salford, Bradford and Tranmere, but again, beaten Mansfield, Barrow, Wimbledon, teams in the top half. They're capable. Stevenage are second. Stevenage on the road to teams in the top half, drawn 1, lost 2. Sutton are 12th in the top half. Outside the top half, Stevenage, teams 13th or below, they've won 4, drawn 5, lost none. Tight game to assess, I found it. It will probably be a draw, but if I had to bet, I would just bet Stevenage because, there's 10% figure higher there. So that's it. Don't forget those 2 bets I'm having there. Aston Villa and Hull. There's a few other bets in League 1 and League 2 which have gone out to members. And that is it, guys. Fingers crossed we have a good weekend. It was a good weekend last week. We had 3 nice winners in the week, but Scarborough let us down against Brackley because we had 3 individual bets in that game and none of them came off. But we found 3 good winners in Worthing, Spennymoor and Carlisle. Fingers crossed, that's it. Have a good weekend. Speak to you next time. Bye for now.